BBC Hooniverse.
You're watching the TGM production.
Hello, and welcome to this brand new film. Now, this film is all about fan podcasts and my thoughts on fan podcasts, but I won't be talking about my podcast, The Boy Box Files, or my other podcast, Timey Wimey, which is hosted by Bingo Bob. Now, I've been inspired by TV, film, radio, and podcasts, and there's a lot of excellent Doctor Who podcasts out there, like so many. I could probably name a few. Says Who, Whovianas, Toby Hadoke's one, that I think should change this title now, actually, so can't really tell you what the title of that is. But there's loads of like really good Doctor Who podcasts, and there's Doctor Who audio drama in a form of podcast. So I think that the realm of podcasting and Doctor Who worked really well together. We also had the official Doctor Who podcast for a while, so that sort of worked. And I think that when you delve into the world of Doctor Who and podcasts, they're excellent. They've got a new Doctor Who podcast coming officially by by Karen Gillan and Arthur Darvill about Doctor Who. I think it's called like The Ponds or something. Stephen Moffat was one of the guests on one of the early episodes in the show, and apparently it's his favourite interview of all time. What I really like about fan podcasts in general is that we get to interview and speak to people that we wouldn't normally, Big Finish writers, Big Finish actors from the main series. And you sort of get to grips of who these people are. There's one called Who Watch, which is Bex Axford, and I can't remember that book, so I do apologise. But it's where they reviewed every episode of Doctor Who ever, starting with the William Hartnell era. And it's such interesting, because it's like, yes, we can talk about Doctor Who all we like, but there needs to be new ways of doing it. And I think that that's another way of doing it, where it's like, not everyone's doing classic Who anymore in the podcasting world. So I think that it sort of gives the sort of sense of, yeah, there's more to come, and that they're working on things, and it's all being generated, and it's all going to be this next hive of activity, and going to be the next big thing. And I think the podcasting is really good, but I do think that the Doctor Who podcasting is excellent. There is a lot of it out there, so I've not heard every Doctor Who podcast, but I've heard podcasts, as I call them, so I've heard enough to be able to talk about it. Now, what I thought, as we get into this film, I thought, because we're about 2 minutes-ish into it, I thought that the rest of this will be audio only, because here's what. A podcast, majority of the podcasts are audio only. Some of them are video, but some video stuff are coming to Spotify, because Spotify now does video. My podcast, Boy Box Files, is currently being updated, in the sense of I use SoundCloud as its host in platform, and it gets distributed elsewhere. So I need to find out whether or not Spotify are going to allow videos. That SoundCloud are going to allow videos, so I can then visualize the Boy Box File podcast for audio listeners, instead of making them having to go to YouTube, because not everyone watches YouTube these days, me included. So I want to say that Who Knows, which is Josh Carr's excellent podcast, I do think that is excellent, because it's got some format bits that work really well, like the Corridor of Fame or whatever. He's had Murray Gold on his podcast. I love to interview Murray Gold. And he's had some really interesting fan creators as well, because if you really think about it, as a fandom, as the Whovians, we need to sort of look at this and go, right, we've got these podcasts, you've got a Doctor Who podcast, you've got a Doctor Who podcast, you've got a Doctor Who podcast. Now, if you interview people on your podcast, we'll get them on because they want to promote their fan series, but we also need to champion fan creators because Bex Haxford is a good example. Eventually, right, they could end up working for official Doctor Who because Doctor Who magazine could see that they're excellent writers, they could finish, could spot them, and obviously the main series is in flux, and I don't know how you become a writer for the main series, but like Miles Taylor, who is now the 11th Doctor for Big Finish, congratulations by the way, he started out playing the Doctor in his own fan original series, right? And look where he is now. Jacob Dudman used to do voice acting, like impressions of Doctor on YouTube. Look where he was, right? He's no longer doing that. He's now acting further on, but he's no longer being the 11th Doctor. That's why I said where he was, because he's now doing other things. But we're on about Doctor Who. So, if you really think about it, there is a lot to praise podcasts for. There's a lot to say, oh, I love that podcast. Oh, I love that podcast. Oh, I love that podcast. And that's what we're aiming to do in this film. Now, as we reach the 6 minute mark, let's head to audio only. Now, before we do that, the other reason why we do audio only is because I can then get up on my portable devices. I can get up podcasts on Spotify and name the ones I'm on about, because right now I'm trying to remember the ones, but I want to name them and explain why I think that podcast really works and that podcast really works. Because my aim here is not just to promote other people's podcasts, but it's also to demonstrate that, yes, there might be 15 Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcasts and 18 ones about Star Wars, but there's millions about Doctor Who, because you can go in so many different directions. Some people talk about New Who, some people talk about Classic Who, some people talk about Big Finish exclusively. There's a really good one about Big Finish car parks, and I can't remember for the life of me what that's called, but when I find it, I do want to re-listen to it. So, let's head into the world of audio only. Bye-bye! And now, we're into the world of audio only. As I transport you now, we're going to head over to Spotify, the app, and we're going to find out the name of these podcasts. Now, another reason why I wanted to make this is because I wanted to obviously talk about Doctor Who podcasts, because I think they are excellent. So let's first of all talk about Toby Hadoke's Doctor Who podcast. It's called Doctor Who Doctor Who Toby Hadoke's Time Travel Time Travel. Let's just call it Time Travel. Now, what's good about Toby Hadoke's podcast compared to some other podcasts is that it's not really a podcast, if you will. So what he does is, each week he has a selection of series. So if you think of what a podcast really is, a podcast is, in a digital sense, is a place where it's like a TV channel sometimes, is how I'm going to describe it. So it's like a TV channel, right? On the channel you have different programs. So for Toby Hadoke, at least, you have his podcast, which might be one series, but he has different series throughout the week, so he can have different avenues and do different things. Next in our Doctor Who podcast look through, we have the Review of Death, a Doctor Who podcast which sort of reviews episodes of Doctor Who, and then they have exclusives on Patreon where they talk about their, well, they do live commentaries of like Doctor Who Live and whatnot. It was quite excellent. Then we have Who La La, a Doctor Who podcast, and this is what they so this is about Doctor Who and its particular impact on their adult lives. So besties, best friends, Sam and Alistair hurtle through the vortex on an epic journey through time, space, and childhood drama. And it's an excellent podcast yet again. I think that it it's another aspect, la la. Then we've got the Big Finish side hustle podcast called Into the TARDIS, which is trying to get people into the world of Big Finish. We have Doctor Who, Too Hot for TV. I've not actually heard this one yet because I only recently stumbled across it. A podcast about the extended universe of Doctor Who. Nothing too niche for us. And currently, the last episode from Christmas Day 2025, they talked about Big Finish. Next, we have About Time, a Doctor Who podcast. Stephen's been a Doctor Who fan since 2005. His boyfriend Ben's never seen it before, and he's highly suspicious. Join them as they travel through the 21st century Who. Excellent. Next, we have Who's There, a Doctor Who podcast. Yes, this is one of the more high-profile ones because it's got Crispy Pro and Red Archer Live. Troy was on Limitless Winds a few years back. Obviously, you have the Doctor Who official podcast. You have quite a few. Then you have episodes of other podcasts that talk about Doctor Who, such as the rest of the entertainment and whatnot. You have 50% Who, which is the 50% Doctor Who podcast, which is a Australian podcast. Josh Snares has appeared on it quite a few times. Obviously, Who Knew? You have a hamster with a blunt penknife, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm now just reading off the name of the podcast here. Because I'm just trying to get to it. Now what we're going to look at is Big Finish Car Park. Right, let's see if that comes up with our podcast that we're trying to look for. No, it doesn't. We'll just get to a podcast called Finish Big. Mark and John have enjoyed Big Finish since it first began. Now they're stepping through the archive to discuss, critique and gossip about the entire library of adventures. That is, that's because I didn't spell the word finish right. To get to the Big Finish car park. And I didn't spell park right either, it seems. So I do apologise on that one. But no, we haven't found it, so we will get to the bottom of this, but that might not be today. So overall, I think that Doctor Who podcasts are fascinating. They're delving into the lives of fans who are getting to grips with trying to present their ideas across, but they don't want to make YouTube stuff. They don't want to make short films. They don't want to do this, that, the other. And I think that that's sort of a really interesting way of looking at the world of Doctor Who. And I do think I could, and I do think we should give them credit for using their initiative and going, right, I want to talk about Doctor Who publicly. Let's just make a podcast. We could do it weekly. I could do it on my own. So mine, Bully Box Files, was originally on my own. And then I started interviewing people and I thought, I'm going to turn this into an interviewing podcast. And now I interview people on the podcast. Sometimes I wish I might do a Tommy Haydock of it, but then I thought, well, on the Tom Mason YouTube channel, I do that anyway. So, there we have it. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening. My thoughts on fan podcasts. Recommend your favourite fan podcast in the comments of wherever you're watching this. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to the official Tom Mason YouTube channel.